This is Meet Sean, where we break down real life topics insurance, annuities, real estate, travel planning, and home ownership so you can make smarter moves. Subscribe so you don't miss the next episode.
Right now, right above your head, maybe behind the drywall of the building you're sitting in, there is this threat just quietly eroding your property value.
Oh, absolutely.
And it is completely silent. It's incredibly slow. And yet, well, here's a staggering statistic from the source material we're pulling apart today. Insurers pay out over $10 billion every single year for commercial water-related losses. $10 billion.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal figure. I mean, to put that into perspective for you, that $10 billion completely surpasses the combined costs of commercial fire damage and theft.
Wow, really?
Yeah. You worry about a midnight break-in or like a massive electrical fire, but the actual villain is just dripping from a pipe hidden up in the ceiling.
That is wild. Well, welcome to this deep dive. Whether you manage a massive 50-story office tower or you own a corner retail space or, maybe you're just intensely curious about the hidden mechanics on property management, you are in the right place.
Glad to be here.
Our mission today comes straight from a comprehensive guide by the WSV Group. They're a certified building contractor. We are going to build you an actionable annual inspection schedule to protect your building, and we're going to calculate the true financial benefit of proactive building envelope protection.
And if you're listening to this and feeling a sudden spike in blood pressure about that commercial property you manage, just take a breath.
That's for real.
It is completely normal to feel overwhelmed by the sheer scale of a commercial asset. I mean, the square footage alone can be intimidating. But we're going to provide a clear, logical blueprint. You don't have to be a victim to these massive repair bills. There's a rigid science to preventing them.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because we really need to confront the reality that a tiny silent drip is often a much bigger threat to a commercial property than a dramatic sudden emergency like, a storm blowing off a roof panel. It just feels completely counterintuitive.
It does feel backwards. Well, until you look at the physical mechanics of water anyway, we tend to dismiss a small drip because it simply doesn't command our adrenaline.
Right. No alarms going off.
Exactly. Like if a storefront window shatters, you call a glazier and fix it today.
Yeah.
If a pipe under a utility sink drips once an hour, human nature says to just slide a bucket under it and promise to deal with it next quarter. But water is patient. It never stops working.
And it travels.
Yeah.
That detail from the WSV Group Guide is genuinely insidious. Let's say you're walking down the hallway of your office building. You look up and you see that classic ugly brown ring forming on an acoustic drop ceiling tile.
Oh, everyone knows that ring.
Right. Your first instinct is to assume a pipe is leaking directly above that exact spot.
Which is a very dangerous assumption. The guide points out that water follows the path of least resistance, and surface tension allows it to cling to materials. A leak might start at a supply line, pool on a concrete subfloor, run along the flange of a horizontal steel I-beam for 30 feet, travel down an electrical conduit, and finally drop onto a ceiling tile 3 rooms away from the actual source.
3 rooms away, meaning while it takes that entire journey, it's just doing hidden damage across multiple zones of the building.
Precisely.
Which brings us to the biological timeline, which honestly blew my mind. The guide notes that mold begins to grow within just 24 to 48 hours of initial water exposure. 2 days.
Because the spores are already there.
Wait, really?
Yeah, mold spores are microscopic and they exist in the air of virtually every building on Earth. They're just waiting for 2 things. A food source, like the paper backing of commercial drywall or those ceiling tiles, and moisture.
Oh, wow.
So the second you introduce that wandering water from our steel I-beam example, you trigger a biological bloom.
So if, say, a condensation line backs up on a Friday evening after the office clears out, by the time the facility manager unlocks the front doors on Monday morning, you already have a toxic biological hazard forming inside the walls.
Yeah, creating immediate health risks. We're talking about respiratory issues for your tenants, which opens up a whole new vector of legal liability.
Nobody wants that.
No. But let's look at how this impacts the overall commercial property value, because it goes way beyond paying a contractor to patch up some wet drywall. It triggers a massive cascade of costs.
So the repair bill is just the appetizer.
That is exactly the way to look at it. First, you have the visible signs, bubbling paint, swollen baseboards, persistent damp smells. Those are massive red flags.
Right, the stuff people actually see.
And they immediately erode tenant trust.
Mm-hmm.
A commercial tenant paying premium rent sees a water stain and thinks management is failing. Then comes the direct financial hit. You have to close entire wings of the building for hazardous remediation, which means lost rental income. Following that, your insurance premiums spike due to the claim, which pulls cash out of your operating budget. Ultimately, your net operating income drops. And because commercial real estate is valued based on income, the entire market value of the property plummets.
It's a financial termite.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, like a biological termite eats the wooden studs holding up the physical walls, but this slow leak is quietly eating the equity holding up your balance sheet. By the time you see the damage on the surface, the structural integrity of your investment is already hollowed out.
Exactly.
But I have to ask a logistical question here. If the signs are so subtle and water travels 30 feet down a steel beam before even showing itself, how do you even begin to look for it? Do you just start cutting holes in the walls, hoping to find a wet pipe?
Well, no, you actually start by looking in the opposite direction. You step outside.
Outside.
Yeah, to protect the inside of a massive commercial space, your first line of defense is the building envelope.
Okay, let's define that term for the listener, because envelope sounds like office supplies, not architecture.
Fair point. Think of the building envelope as the physical separator between the conditioned environment and the unconditioned environment. Conditioned means the interior space where you spend actual money to heat, cool, and dehumidify the air. Unconditioned is the chaotic weather outside. The envelope is your armor, the roof, the exterior walls, the windows, and the concrete foundation.
Ah, so you're fortifying the perimeter before you worry about the interior.
The data support's starting there. The Hartfords, they're a major commercial insurance company. They estimate that 15% of all small business property damage and liability claims are strictly due to exterior water and freezing.
15%.
Yeah, that is a massive chunk of claims originating just from the outside elements finding a microscopic way in.
So what are the critical exterior checkpoints? Like, where's the armor weakest?
First and foremost, gutters, downspouts, and drainage systems. They absolutely must be cleared of debris regularly.
See, that sounds like a weekend chore for a suburban house, not, a critical commercial property strategy.
It does sound mundane until you scale up the physics. Think about the square footage of a flat commercial roof. During a heavy rainstorm, you aren't dealing with a few gallons, you're dealing with thousands of pounds of standing water.
Whoa!
Yeah, if a commercial drainage system is clogged with autumn leaves, that massive volume of water doesn't just sit politely.
It creates hydrostatic pressure.
You hit the nail on the head. For anyone unfamiliar with hydrostatic pressure, imagine taking an empty plastic cup and trying to push it upside down into a bucket of water.
Okay.
The deeper you push, the harder the water pushes back against the plastic. Standing water on a roof or against a foundation exerts immense constant pressure. It will find the tiniest microscopic fissure in your brickwork or roofing membrane and literally force its way inside the building.
So beyond just cleaning the gutters to relieve that pressure, you have to inspect the roof membrane itself, the window seals, and the facades for any of those tiny fissures.
Right. Even a hairline crack in the exterior brick caulking is an open invitation. If we connect this to the bigger picture, a crack in the exterior foundation doesn't just mean a few drops of water get in.
What else does it mean?
It means unconditioned, freezing air infiltrates the building cavity. In winter, if you fail to seal those exterior cracks, that sub-zero air blasts directly onto your internal plumbing hidden inside the walls.
Oh man, I see the connection now. So a tiny, neglected crack in the outside brick on a Tuesday is the direct cause of a major pipe bursting in a second-floor restroom on a Friday.
A failure of the exterior envelope almost always guarantees a failure of the internal systems. They are intimately linked.
Which brings us inside. Because once that perimeter is secured, we have to look at the systems we actually installed. Ironically, the majority of catastrophic leaks don't come from a dramatic thunderstorm. They come from inside the house.
This is where the statistics get really surprising. So we mentioned the 15% of claims from outside water and freezing. But according to the Hartford, a massive 75% of commercial water losses are linked to internal systems.
75%. That leaves almost nothing else.
The calls are coming from inside the building. Plumbing, HVAC, and internal appliances make up 3/4 of all water damage.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The very systems designed to keep the building comfortable, like a massive rooftop air conditioning unit, and the systems designed to keep it safe from fire, like overhead sprinklers, are often the very things that destroy the building if they aren't maintained.
It's the ultimate paradox of modern architecture.
Totally.
Let's break down those specific internal culprits. First, you have aging, corroded plumbing networks. Water doesn't usually burst through a healthy copper pipe all at once. It starts as a pinhole leak.
How does a pinhole even form in solid metal? Like, I always wondered that.
It's a combination of water chemistry and friction.
Friction.
Yeah. As water travels through a pipe and turns a sharp 90-degree corner, the physical friction slowly wears away the copper from the inside out over years. Eventually, it breaches the surface. It just drips silently behind a wall for months, rotting out the surrounding structure until the weakened pipe finally ruptures completely.
Wow. And then there's the fire sprinkler system, which is a totally different beast because that water isn't moving.
That's the dangerous part. Sprinkler lines hold hundreds of gallons of dark, highly pressurized, stagnant water.
Yuck.
Yeah, if a sprinkler head gets bumped by a forklift or fails due to lack of maintenance, it dumps that black sludge directly onto your expensive inventory or server racks in a matter of minutes.
Total nightmare. The guide also specifically calls out HVAC systems and condensation. Air conditioning doesn't just cool the air, it pulls humidity out of it.
Right, and that moisture has to go somewhere. It drips into condensation pans and drains out through small PVC pipes. But a wet, dark drain pan is the perfect environment for algae.
Gross.
Very gross. The algae grows, turns into a sludge, clogs the drain line, and suddenly your air conditioner is overflowing dozens of gallons of water right through the ceiling tiles of your top floor tenant.
Okay, so knowing all of this, the 75% internal risk, the 15% external risk we need to prioritize preventive system maintenance. The WSV Group source lays out an actionable schedule.
They do.
Let me see if I can guess the logic here before you give us the exact timeline. Since the building envelope takes a beating from the sun and weather every single day, that has to be checked the most often, right? Like annual.
Your logic is sound. The building envelope must be inspected annually at an absolute minimum. But crucially, it also requires an immediate spot inspection after any major storm.
Yeah, makes sense.
High winds can lift roofing membranes invisibly. You might not see a missing shingle from the parking lot, but the seal is broken.
Makes total sense. Now, plumbing is hidden and degrading from the inside out, so you probably can't check that every single year without it being incredibly invasive.
Exactly. The guide recommends a full professional evaluation of plumbing systems every 2 years. You cannot just wait for a visible leak.
Right, you'd be too late.
Exactly. A commercial plumber will use ultrasonic testing or visual scoping to evaluate the thickness of order piping networks, catching that friction wear and tear before the pinhole leaks even form.
So, annual for the envelope, every 2 years of the plumbing. What about the sealants? You know, the caulking around those giant commercial windows and the expansion joints in the concrete.
The schedule for sealants is simply apply as needed.
Really? It's as needed.
Yeah, sealants degrade at wildly different rates depending on UV exposure from the sun and local temperature swings. The south-facing side of a building might need recaulking 3 years before the north side does. It requires active, continuous visual monitoring.
That is a solid, logical blueprint. But let's be realistic for a second. Even with the best maintenance schedule in the world, human beings cannot monitor a multi-story building 24 hours a day. I mean, your facility manager goes home at 5 p.m. We all have to sleep.
Which is why modern property management relies on a tech upgrade. This is how you bridge the gap between those annual and biennial human inspections.
Right, because a pipe doesn't care if it's been exactly 2 years since the last check. It's going to burst at 3 a.m. on a Sunday. So the guide emphasizes installing moisture sensors to alert staff of hidden pipe leaks.
What's fascinating here is how this technology fundamentally shifts the psychology of a building owner. It moves you from a reactive posture where you're just waiting for a panicked tenant to call you because water is pouring out of their light fixtures to being completely proactive.
Break down the mechanics of these sensors for us. How are they catching leaks before a human sees them?
It's wonderfully simple IoT technology, or the Internet of Things. You place small wireless moisture sensors in high-risk, low-visibility areas, under the raised floors in your server rooms, inside the drywall chases near major plumbing stacks, beneath those HVAC drip pans we talked about.
Okay, got it.
The sensor has 2 tiny metal prongs. Since water is highly conductive, the second even a millimeter of water touches both prongs, it completes an electrical circuit and fires an instant alert to a cloud dashboard.
Boom. And the guide mentions utilizing commercial property management software to handle those alerts, specifically calling out platforms like Cove.
Software like Cove acts as the central brain. It unifies preventive maintenance, tenant communication, and vendor coordination into one hub.
So it's automated.
Very. If a sensor trips in the basement at 2 a.m., the software doesn't just flash a red light. It can automatically log a work order, push an alert to the on-call facility manager's phone, and even pre-notify your contracted emergency plumber.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here on behalf of the listener. Let's say I own a smaller commercial property, maybe a strip mall or like a 2-story medical office. Is paying for a network of 247 wireless sensors and subscription software total overkill? Because it sounds like an expensive luxury for a massive skyscraper.
That's a very common objection, but let's calculate the financial benefit of proactive protection. Let's look at the math from the WSD guide. Forget about a catastrophic roof collapse for a second. Let's just look at repairing a broken water service line. The physical repair alone costs around $1,000 simply for the heavy equipment digging required to expose the pipe in the ground.
$1,000 just to rent the backhoe and move the dirt before you even buy a replacement pipe.
Right. Now factor in the cascade of costs. Add in the massive flooding that saturated the drywall for 8 hours before someone found it. Add in the ruined medical equipment or retail inventory of your ground floor tenant.
Ouch.
Add in the lost rent because they have to close for 3 weeks while contractors run commercial dehumidifiers and rip out the flooring. When you run the true numbers on that downtime, a localized network of moisture sensors pays for itself the very first time it detects a single drop of water.
Wow. It isn't a luxury. It's the most aggressive return on investment you can buy for property protection. But, I mean, even if your sensors are flawless and your maintenance schedule is perfectly executed, you still don't control the outside world. Like, if a 50-year-old municipal water main ruptures under the public sidewalk, that water is coming for your foundation regardless of your preparation.
And when that happens, panic is your absolute worst enemy. You need a rapid response action plan already documented and drilled. Because in a flood scenario, every minute the water flows, your damage bill is multiplying exponentially.
The guide is very clear on emergency protocols. Assuming a pipe bursts on the property side of the line, step 1 is dispatching an emergency plumber immediately.
The municipal utility will only shut off or fix what is on their side of the property line.
Right.
If the geyser is on your grass, it's your problem. But while you are waiting 45 minutes for that emergency plumber to arrive in traffic, your on-site team has to take action.
Which highlights the critical need for staff training. The property owner cannot be the only person who holds the blueprint in their head. Your daytime janitorial staff, the overnight security guards, they need to know the exact physical location of the main water shutoff valves.
It is non-negotiable. And beyond shutting off the water, they need to know how to safely isolate and turn off the electricity in affected zones to prevent electrocution hazards. They need protocols for safely relocating critical assets like paper tax records or computer servers out of the water's path.
Let's fast forward. The plumber arrives, the valve is closed, the water stops. Now the clock is loudly ticking on that 24 to 48-hour mold window we discussed earlier.
Which means immediate, aggressive drying procedures. You cannot just mop the tile and point a standard desk fan at a wet carpet.
Right, I'm guessing that's not enough.
Not even close. The guide stresses the deployment of high-capacity water extraction equipment and commercial dehumidifiers.
Why commercial dehumidifiers specifically? Like, why doesn't a fan work on wet drywall?
Because a fan only dries the surface. Wood studs and drywall are porous. They pull water deep into their cellular structure.
Ah, I see.
Commercial dehumidifiers drop the relative humidity in the room so low that it physically forces the moisture out from deep inside the building materials and into the air where it is captured and drained.
That makes a lot of sense. And while the remediation crew is running those massive humidifiers, the property owner has a very specific job to do as well.
Documentation. You need to photograph every single water line, every ruined piece of drywall, and every damaged asset before anything is thrown away. Take detailed notes and notify your insurance provider immediately to start the claims process.
Okay, so what does this all mean? If you're a listener trying to synthesize all this into a strategy to protect a commercial asset, it really comes down to a holy trinity of building protection. Number 1, strict adherence to the annual exterior and internal 2-year inspection schedules. Number 2, integrating smart moisture sensor technology to watch the hidden corners of the building when you aren't there. And number 3, highly trained staff who know exactly which valve to turn when the absolute worst happens.
That is an excellent summary. And I always come back to this core belief: knowledge is only valuable when it's applied. Knowing these statistics won't keep your basement dry. You have to implement the tech and train the team.
Exactly.
And as one final piece of highly practical advice from the guide, do not wait for a flood to read the fine print of your insurance policy.
Right tip.
Yeah, water damage from an internal burst pipe is usually covered by standard commercial policies, but actual flooding, meaning water rising from the outside and breaching your envelope, almost always requires completely separate flood coverage. Review your specific policy tomorrow morning. Seriously, don't let a paperwork technicality bankrupt your business after a storm. Well, it's been a fascinating deep dive today into the hidden physics of commercial properties. But I want to leave you with one final forward-looking thought.
Okay.
We talked about how smart sensors and property management software like Cove are catching pinhole leaks today and alerting humans. But think about the trajectory of that IoT technology. How long until commercial buildings are fully autonomous?
Oh, wow.
Right. Imagine a building that doesn't just send a text message when it detects a leak, but automatically deploys a robotic fix, or instantly shuts off localized internal microvalves on a single floor before a human being even knows a pipe was failing. The technology is rapidly approaching. So take a hard look at your own building, look at the systems you manage, and ask yourself, is my property working for me, or am I just waiting to work for it?
That's it for today's Meet Sean. If this helped, follow the show and share this episode with one person who needs it. See you next time.